this is a soft skill that I feel like a lot of us do miss. But this is really your chance. You should not be humble when you're writing that type of letter. This is where you really want to show everything that you did and why it's really important for them to take you. They should not miss that opportunity. Your resume and CV, again, they are looking, as some of my colleagues said before, the college, and this is true probably for every school you apply for at Harvard. They're not just looking at numbers. They're just not waiting to see what your grades are. They're looking to see who you are as a person, why you would be the actual person who's going to change the world. And this has to show. This has to show from things you've done previously, but also about things that you're saying that you're doing and that you will do, and that you will do with the degree that you're going to get. So they do have a cutoff for the TOEFL, although they don't have one, as I said, for the GRE. This is 100 on the internet-based test and the IELTS 7. And there's an application fee, I think, of $75 for the SOFAS. So these are some of the things that you need. Some of them are a little bit more specific about the degrees, so you can read them here. But generally you need a statement of purpose, and they have guidelines on their website about kind of how you should be writing this, and particularly that different departments, your statement obviously would not be the same if you're applying, for the immunology PhD. It's not going to be the same as you're applying for the MPH. Some are more quantitative based, so these are like the biostatistics departments. They want strong quantitative ability. So this is probably where they care a little bit more about your math score on the GRE. Not the only thing, but this is probably where they're going to look at it more closely. Recommendations, as we mentioned, are really important. If you're looking for the Doctor of Science degree, at least one recommendation from someone who can attest to ability to do original research. So your ability to actually start a project, research project, complete it, and publish it. And in statement of purpose, you want to identify research area of interest and any faculty whom you would like to work. If you're applying for an MPH, you don't really have to say, okay, I'm going to go work with Dr. X and Y. This is general degree. If you're applying for a Doctorate of Science degree, you really want to say, this is the particular professor, and you should probably communicate with this professor and see if they're interested to have, a doctor student working with them. For the Doctor of Public Health, at least one recommendation letter from someone who can attest to academic ability, and 2 people who can talk about leadership ability and potential for growth. So here they're not looking particularly for research skills or abilities. They're looking for leadership abilities and potential for growth. So I'm going to move on. I said I'm going to talk very little about the medical school. The reason behind that, so medical school, like law school in the US, is different. Here we apply to medical school from, after you finish high school, right? You apply to medical school. In the US, it's a graduate degree, meaning you go to college, Harvard College or elsewhere, you get a degree in 4 years, and then you apply to medical school or you apply to law school, which is very important to think about because it's, obviously a very different route of getting into medical school in the US. Now, Harvard Medical School, unfortunately, I don't think ever takes international students for the medical degree, right? So just to get the medical degree, it takes people for residency and fellowship, and we'll talk about this. I did my residency there, but for medical, to actually get your medical degree, they don't take international people. The reason just happens to be that it's the most competitive school in the US, and medicine in the US is extremely competitive. So for them, they end up really taking, mostly US graduates. I might be wrong that they may have taken, one person in like, X number of years possible, but, you don't usually see international students at the medical school, except if they did their college in the US. So if you did if you went to Harvard College, got a degree, and applied to the medical school, you're no longer really an international student, you're a graduate of Harvard, or if you got your college degree from any other degree-granting school in the US. For the medical school, though, there's a lot of residencies. It's one of the biggest university hospital system in the US. So there's at least 8 major hospitals affiliated with the Harvard Medical School. So you may have heard about Massachusetts General Hospital. There's Boston Children's Hospital where I work, Brigham and Women's Hospital. A lot of very internationally renowned hospitals. And they have a lot of residency programs. And anybody has a chance, at least a fair chance, to compete for these residency programs. And there are definitely residents from Egypt in some of these residency programs. Again, they're quite competitive. The residency programs, too, they're the most competitive programs usually in the US. But, you know, people have made it before. There's no reason any of you can't make it if you put your mind to achieve that. There are a few master's degrees, and, you know, to be honest, it's not something I know a lot about because there are very few spots, and usually they're kind of very department specific. And these are master's degrees that, you know, the way the masters work in the US is a little bit different. So in medicine, you go for residency and fellowship in the US. Here, the system's different. You can get a master's, you can get a doctorate in medicine. There, the master's is mostly not in any particular field. So you're not getting a master's in internal medicine, a master's in cardiology. You get masters in other types of areas, like biomedical informatics. So this is when you have electronic medical records, being able to, you know, get information from it. I mean, it's really an amazing field. Global health delivery, immunology, master's program in clinical and translational research. This one is pretty good. It's a 2-year program. And I think it's like the MPH. It really boosts your chance of getting into a residency in the US if that's actually your ultimate goal, particularly if you want to do residency and be a researcher. And then there's a master's in medical education, which is, again, is something that's really, really needed. If you know, get that master's and maybe come back to Egypt and work in medical education reform, that would be wonderful. They also have PhD programs, and these are mostly, you know, kind of lab-based type of research, and you get your PhD. Okay, with that, I'll move on. I you know, have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Noura Selim. Noura is a graduate of the Harvard Business School. She's also the treasurer for the Harvard Arab Alumni Association. So, you know, if I've learned anything in my 10 years at Harvard, it's probably you always have to be nice to the treasurer. So please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and for having us here. I'm a graduate of Harvard Business School class of 2013. And so I'll be sort of brief in my presentation about the school. There's a lot of information also online, and then would love to hear any questions that you have during the Q&A session. So I think Harvard Business School, the mission that, you know, Harvard sort of prides itself on is to educate leaders who make a difference in the world. I want to pause here for a second and stress leaders and not business leaders, because I think, you know, Harvard Business School is not a place where you just go if you're interested in becoming sort of, you know, an executive in the private sector, but a lot of people actually go on to pursue not-for-profit, you know, management in the not-for-profit sector, management in sports fields, you know, management in the social sector space, and even in government. So I think, again, it's really a degree for learning general management, whatever the field it is that you want to go to. Okay. So a couple of points. So the program is a 2-year full-time program. You really sort of, it is very intensive. It is full-time, except if you're doing the executive MBA. And it's a residential campus in Boston. Everyone is sort of around the Boston area. You can choose to live on campus, off campus. The other thing that I think is unique about the program is it's a general management program. So again, you learn a bit of everything in that there are a lot of classes about leadership. There's sort of the basics that you have to take on accounting, finance, etc. And then, which is basically computes your first year of a lot of general courses. And then during your second year, you sort of choose your own electives, and you can, let's say, you know, go really deep in finance, but still it's not, you know, it's different from other schools in that you don't get a concentration. So you're not going to have a finance concentration or a marketing concentration, although you can spend your second year taking a lot of finance courses or marketing courses. And I actually think that this is something that a lot of people value, because you sort of come out as well-rounded. So you generally have a good understanding of all the different key components of business, at the same time, you know, being able to really know your finance, etc. The other thing that's unique is the case and field method of learning. So, you know, Harvard is sort of really famous on the case method. And what that means is that you actually never have a professor that's sitting and sort of lecturing at you. The way it works is you take, let's say here, you know, the example is Starbucks, if you can see it. So you take a case that you have the night before the class, right? And let's say it's leadership, right? So it talks about a real life example of, let's say, the CEO of Starbucks when they were facing, I don't know, declining sales, let's say, right? And it goes through the event and provides you with a lot of the information, and then basically puts you in the shoe of the CEO, right? And the next day you come to the class basically discussing what would you do if you were in his shoes, right? And it's great because what happens then is that the whole class, obviously then guided by the professor, right, is going on debating different perspectives. And the other really cool thing is that most of the time you then have the person in the room who you're discussing, right, to come back and say, you know, thank you guys for criticizing me. You know, I would have loved to do this, but here's how it actually worked, and here's what I learned. And again, I honestly think after sort of having been in the workplace for a bit and then coming to Harvard, I couldn't sit through, you know, a lot of sort of lecture-based classes. So I really enjoyed it, and I think you actually end up learning a ton through seeing other people's perspectives. And more importantly, I think through having to really defend your own perspective, right? A lot of people will say, well, why did you really think that, right? Where are you getting this from? Where in the case is this? And so it really teaches you both to speak up in a class of 90 students that are all intelligent, as well as to be able to, you know, find a way to really form your views, defend your views, etc. The class is quite big, so we have around 900 students per class. So, you know, on campus, you'd have around 1,800 students from the first year and the second year. And 34% international and 41% women. And the international bit, you really feel. And you feel it both in the cases. So the great thing is that, you know, the cases aren't all about corporates in America. You'll have cases about the Middle East. You'll have cases about, you know, US companies. You'll have cases about, entities in the social sector from all around the world. And then you'll actually have a student, you know, let's say the case is on Nigeria saying, you know, I was working in this company when this happened and here's my perspective. So I think a lot of learning that you get from your colleagues in the class. And I think finally another important point is that you have to have full-time work experience before applying to the business school. So I think on average, most people tend to have, you know, between 2 to 3 years. So you do have a lot of young people. You also have a lot of people that, you know, have more years of experience. I joined after, I think, about 3.5 work experience. And I think that's, you know, more valuable for you than it is for the school, because I think a big part of coming to the school is discovering what it is that you really want to do after. And only if you probably have been in the workplace, understood, you know, what you like, what you don't like, what are your strengths, what are the areas that you want to work further on, I think you get a lot more out of the program. And a lot of people come to completely shift, you know, careers. So people come and they were engineers and now, you know, they want to go into marketing. And, you know, I've seen many of my classmates sort of go in doing one thing and ending up, let's say, in hotel management because that's what they really wanted to do. My background was a bioengineer, so you also don't have to know anything about, you know, business to come in. I didn't take finance, I didn't take accounting. I did work as a consultant before, so I had, you know, some business exposure, but really, you know, you have people coming from everywhere. So definitely not a limitation in terms of, you know, applying. So the application, I think here there are a few steps, but what I would really sort of encourage you to do is if you're interested, prepare early. The application is, you know, it requires the GMAT. I think you could also do the GRE, but it requires the GMAT. There are essays, you know, then you get invited for an interview. The deadlines are quite early, as you've noticed. I think with all the schools, it generally ends up being, you know, for first round, it's September 9th for the following year. For the second round, it's January 6th, and for the third, it's April 6th. I would definitely encourage you to apply first or maximum second round. It just increases your chances. It's sort of a rolling basis application. So by the time you've reached the third round, the majority of students have been accepted, and then you're really competing for, you know, a few final seats. So prepare early, really spend the time, and honestly reach out to students. So I'd be more than happy to, you know, speak to anyone, even pose the Q&A about applying. My year, and one of my colleagues is also here, we were 5 Egyptians. You know, versus like 10 Lebanese and even more from other nations. And I would, you know, I would have loved to see more of us there. And so, and I personally stalked a lot of HBS alums when I was applying, and everyone was very helpful. There are many alums in Egypt, and again, we'd be very happy to provide you sort of with contacts, etc. And then, here are the steps. So to leave you with sort of like the 3 final thoughts, as I said, I think prep early, apply early, know your dates. The second thing that has been stressed by everyone is do not worry about the financial component. I honestly think if you get in, you will find a way to cover it, particularly for the MBA program, and I think this will be covered in the scholarships. There's the Unsi Sawir scholarship program, and it covers you 100% for the entire 2 years of, you know, your study, including, you know, your health insurance, your flights, et cetera, et cetera. There is the Citadel Scholarship, and there are many others in addition to, you know, the financial aid that you can get from the actual school. So I would not worry about that. For me, it was really a fantastic experience and really life-changing from just not only the classes that you take, but, you know, if I think back of the kind of people that we had come into our classroom, right, like really senior, like Jack Welch from GE, you know, came in and was talking about sort of his time at GE and what he did. People that I didn't think I would ever sort of get to meet. And not only HBS, but, you know, the whole Harvard campus is open to you. So I sort of, you know, was an HKS wannabe. So I sort of always went across the river to attend their events because they would have, like, the president of Argentina is here today coming to talk to the students, right? So it's really a fantastic place. And, you know, regardless of sort of which school you're excited about, also view this as sort of a, you know, a collective Harvard experience where really all the doors of the other schools are open. There are also two, you know, popular programs, joint degree programs with HBS. So one is the HBS HKS joint degree, and it's a 3-year program between the School of Business and the Kennedy School. And, you know, if you love education, you can't find another excuse to spend an additional year. I think it's a great program, and particularly for people like us where you want a business education because you think it would be helpful, but you also want, you know, a public sector education because you think you may want to, you know, work on public policy, et cetera. The other is the joint degree with the law school. So that is the JD MBA. And again, sort of both very competitive, but, you know, both really exciting programs if you wish to pursue them. So, you know, happy to take any questions about the business school during the Q&A, and very happy to talk to any of you after this. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm back. I want to talk to you if you're not the one lawyer or the many doctors, then I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for in the following presentation. The Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences is the school that hosts the bulk of the graduate degrees, be it in master's or PhD. So it has 57 programs of study, a whole bunch of PhDs, masters. If you're applying for a PhD, you can apply directly from your undergraduate from a BA. So that's good news. If you're a successful student in the undergraduates, you can apply directly. Most PhDs, most doctoral programs come with funding. So again, we want to reinforce the message of, yes, you can financially attend Harvard, which is something that many people have misconception about. I'll tell you a little bit about the Graduate School of Arts and Science, but I really want to emphasize, we said financially you can get into Harvard, but I want to take a minute to build on what has been said before on how do you get in? What makes you someone that Harvard is interested in? It's a real skill building your application to Harvard or to any of the top schools in the US. Basically, this is the best way for you to think about it. The admissions officer that's reading your application had read in that same day probably 500 other applications. What makes you, as he's driving home to his family, stick in his mind? فاهمين بقول إيه? So if you submit the usual message of, I'm an A student, well, 99.9% of the people who applied are A students. If you submit based of, I got excellent grades in my GRE, GMAT, LSAT, whatever, well, you know, so did everybody else who applied. But if we take the college, for example, which has more than 30,000 applicants, of which they admit 1,600. What makes you stick and stand out for the admissions office? Why would they give you a seat and reject for that seat they gave you 10 other people for the same exact seat? You have to build a case. Think about it in low terms. You have to build a case that communicates to the admissions officer the following message. Yes, I am somebody who you'd be proud calling one of your alumni. I am a leader in whatever it is you're doing, be it business, be it law, be it education, be it medicine, whatever. So to do that, to build that case, you have to think about the message you want to communicate to them in your essay. Then you have to work with your recommenders, and I think that the message that we just heard
from Dr. Hesham is spot on. Make sure your recommender is familiar with what it takes to build the recommendation for top US universities. Your essay should really communicate a story that nobody but you can communicate. And that's how you stand out. You build your case. You have your recommenders reinforce that story that you built. Taban, it goes without saying that you should have aced your grades, your examination, your everything else. That on its own does not guarantee your admission. But you have to communicate the emotional story of, yes, I am worthy of that seat, and yes, you should reject the 10 others and admit me. That's how you get a Harvard admission. So within the Graduate School of Art and Sciences, here are the different degrees you can get. There are too many to mention, but I'm sure, I hope, you'll find what you're looking for in one of these. Be it under humanities, be it under social sciences, be it under natural sciences, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to spend more time talking about the specifics of it because I want to be conscientious of everybody's time. So I want to finish quickly in order to take your Q&A because ultimately I think that's where most benefit for you will come from. Before we move on, we have two presentations on Harvard Graduate School of Design and Harvard Graduate School of Divinity. Just to judge the time parameter, I ask those who are interested in design, Graduate School of Design, raise your hand. Okay, so I think we have interest, Hesham. Can you put your hands down and raise your hand if you're interested in Divinity? All right, so we have around 3 people for Divinity. I tried.
So just as a reminder, I'm a doctor. I have nothing to do with design or the School of Divinity. But I'll walk you through these slides, and there will be information if somebody has specific questions for the admission officers if you want to talk to them a little bit more. Okay, so these are the different masters offered by the Graduate School of Design. I think the Master in Architecture is the most common one. I've met a few Egyptian students and other students from the Arab world in that particular program. I think it shows here. Most of the students are in that program. Master in Landscape Architecture, Master in Urban Planning, Master of Architecture and Urban Design, Master of Landscape Architecture and Urban Design, and Master in Design Studies, and then Doctor of Design. Here are the deadlines, and remember, although a lot of these would say 2014, they'll be the same deadlines roughly for next year. So the deadline December 15th for the Masters of Architecture, then January 15th for these programs, and then as you see here, January 9th and February 6th is the deadline for financial aid application. And the admission requirements are probably similar to some of the other schools, but obviously in the specific field. So you have an online application form, essay statement, resume, 3 letters of recommendation, transcript, the GRE is required, the TOEFL, and the online portfolio. Again, I'm not in design, but my understanding of the online portfolio is like you actually have to submit for them a portfolio of your work, of some of the designs that you've made as part of this application. So I'm going to move on. I saw a few hands also for the Divinity School. So, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the term Divinity. So this is the School of Religion. They accept people from different religions. I definitely know some Muslims there. I've met some Copts there. So, the fact that it's a Divinity school, Sharia school, doesn't mean you cannot, apply if you're from a different religion. They're actually very interested in getting students from different religions. So these are their degrees. There's a Master of Divinity. It's a 3-year program. There's a Master of Theological Studies. I think that's the one I've seen most people in. And it's a 2-year program. There's a Master of Theology, which is a 1-year program. And you can have a PhD in the study of religion. And there's also dual degrees, opportunities. You've already heard about some of the dual degrees. So you can get a law degree together with a medical degree. You can get a medical degree together with a school public health degree. You can get a business degree together with an MPA. And there's dual programs also for the Divinity School. So you can get a dual degree with the Harvard Business School, the Kennedy School of Government, the Law School, Public Health School, and Tufts Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, which is a very famous school for international politics in Tufts University, which is also in Boston. Okay, these are what is required for the application. So you need an online application fee of $75. You need essays for some of them. Of course, your CV, statement of purpose, and this is true for everything you apply to at Harvard, standardized tests, and 3 letters of recommendations. These are the emails. Please, if you have any more questions, if someone has questions that they want to ask, I can do my best to answer them, but obviously this is not my area. So make sure to write down these emails, and if there are questions we can't answer, please email them. By the way, in preparing this presentation, we communicated with all the Harvard admission officers. So, we got updated slides from them, and they're actually all very happy to convey to you that, anybody who has questions, specific questions, they're also welcome to communicate with them. So we will do our best, as Egyptian and Arab graduates from these schools, to share with you our experiences, answer your questions. But if definitely there's more specific questions or questions about some of the schools that graduates from are not represented today, definitely feel free to email those folks. Okay, so now with the last presentation, I know probably everybody is eager to move on to the next section, which is the question and answers. But before that, I know a lot of the questions will probably be around scholarships. So we have the pleasure of having 2 wonderful people with us today. Sahar Husni, who's a graduate of the Kennedy School of Government, and Sahar Al-Bazar, who's a current student at the Kennedy School of Government, and they will share with you information about scholarships.
For the energy level in the room. Are you excited now after all the presentations you've heard from these wonderful Harvard graduates and professors? Low level of energy. Okay, are you excited to apply to one of these programs? That's better. Okay, so before introducing the scholarships for Egyptians to Harvard, I would like first to introduce myself. My name is Sahar Husni, and I'm currently the Harvard Alumni Association contact person in Egypt. Just to give you a small anecdote, in September 20th, 2010, I was sitting right in your place. In June 2011, I was attending my first class at Harvard. In June, or May actually, 2012, I was graduating from Harvard. In May 2014, I became the alumni contact person in Egypt. So it is doable. If only you believe in yourself and you believe that you can do it. You never know you're good enough for Harvard until you get your acceptance letter. Okay? Now, another reality check. Who is ready to apply? No, I need a voice. Yeah? Yes. Okay, let's go to the next section. Okay, there are more than 200 scholarships for Egyptians in general to different countries, different programs, different schools, but we will focus in this presentation on scholarships to Harvard. So some scholarships or fellowships are for Egyptians only or are for other citizens of other countries. There are 2 specific countries. One of them is the US, or sometimes they're for 2 global programs, and then for specific fields or just open. Eligibility criteria vary, but mainly, as previously mentioned by our speakers, that they want someone to stand out. Okay? And the acceptance also of the university or the program that you're applying to, as well as some of the scholarships require you to come back to your country of origin for 2 years or so just to give back to the community. And then there are some deadlines that vary as mentioned in the previous presentations. Okay, first there is the Harvard Arab Alumni Association that offers one scholarship to an Arab citizen, and the details are in this email, or you can also check more details on harvardarabalumni.org, which is the website, and it's for undergrad, master's, or PhD. Then there is the Egyptian Ministry of Finance Harvard Scholarship or Fellowship as well. It's called the Egyptian Fellowship, and it's to the US. It's for Harvard and MIT, but we will focus on Harvard, and the deadline is March. It covers the tuition fees, or some of the years it was a full scholarship covering tuition fees and accommodation and everything, and some others it was partial. So only my year it was partial, but mainly it's a full scholarship, and it covers master's degrees to the 4 schools mentioned here. And luckily we have Sahar, and thanks she could make it from the US because she's studying there this year, and she will be happy to explain some more about this fellowship that she's on. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sahar Al-Bazar. Currently, I'm a student in mid-career MPA, Harvard Kennedy School. I'm a fellow in the Egyptian Fellowship. It's one of the most generous ones. They have 2 offices to administrate this process. We have an office in Harvard, and the other one is through the Ministry of Finance here in Egypt. As applicants, you contact the office in Harvard, and the application process is very easy and very simple. All you have to do is to submit 3 documents: your CV, your application form, which is 3 pages asking you for your personal and general information, and the last one is the statement of purpose. And it's a very short, like 500 words essay. You will talk about why did you choose the program you chose, and how do you think it will enhance your career, and how it will serve Egypt at the end. So these 3 documents, you will just email it to the fellowship, to the office in Harvard, and the deadline is the 1st of March. Please try as soon as you finish your application to the school that you want and the program that you want. Don't wait for the acceptance letter. They don't need it. All you have to do is once you apply to the program, go ahead and shoot the email to the office in Harvard, just the 3 documents, and you're done. And this fellowship, as I mentioned, is very generous, and as Sama said, yes, some years they were partial, but from my year, last year till now, and inshallah to the coming next years, it is full. It supports you in your tuition fees, your medical insurance, and in your monthly stipend that covers your daily and monthly needs. And last thing I would like to add is Harvard experience. Harvard experience is an eye-opener, mind-blowing, and life-changing experience. Please take this chance, and I really would like to see you next year with us in Harvard. Thank you.
Hello again. There is the Citadel Capital Scholarship Foundation. The deadline is in April, and it's global, but only top universities in their fields. So always aim high. You can do it. Just go ahead. Okay? Please try. And the details are on their website, citadelscholarships.org, and email info@citadel-scholarships, but the age should not exceed 30 years old. And you should be Egyptian, and you have to have an acceptance letter. And you need to come back to Egypt 2 years after graduation. On Sawiris, as mentioned, it's for MBAs and construction management only, and also for top universities in the US. And the details are on their website. They require a very high GPA. 3.5 or very good, جيد جدا. فما فوق. Egyptian, back to Egypt 2 years, and you have to have at least 3 years of work experience. Your GRE more than 1,000, TOEFL more than 100, GMAT more than 650. There is also, but it's not written here, Al-Alfi Foundation. Al-Alfi Foundation, it's like the Citadel Foundation, but they mainly pay for STEM education, which is science, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So you can go and apply to Al-Alfi Foundation for your undergrad, for your master's or your PhD in these fields. And also you can apply to your, if you need an international baccalaureate, which is instead of ثانوية عامة, so that you can apply to international universities. It's also by Al-Alfi Foundation, but I'm sorry, it's not written in the presentation. Then there is ExxonMobil and Fulbright. They also fund, there are also scholarships to USA. And there is the McNamara Fellowship. It's by the World Bank, Robert McNamara Fellowship, which covers up to $25,000 for PhD only. So it's a partial PhD scholarship. And then there is the Ibrahim Scholarship Programs. It's an African organization called Mo Ibrahim Foundation, and it covers certain universities in USA just for a master's degree for any African person. And if you need more help, I'm happy to answer your questions. We are always here to help you. We're very happy to answer any questions, and we're very keen on having you there, on having you find your voice and find your place that you deserve. Thank you and good luck.
One last thing, I want to emphasize that the Egyptian Fellowship covers 4 schools only: School of Education, School of Design, School of Government, and the 4th one is Public Health. So whoever wants to apply for HBS, Harvard Business School, it's not covered with the fellowship, but the MBA is covered in MIT through this fellowship. And as mentioned, Sama said that there is more than 200 fellowships and scholarships. In the couple days coming, I will send you by email all the list of these scholarships. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll ask all our speakers to come ahead for the Q&A session. There will be 4 volunteers moving around with mics. We will have 30 minutes for questions, but some of our speakers would be willing to stay a little bit longer. If you want to, if you have a question that you don't want to ask in public or just want to meet one of the speakers, please come ahead. I just ask everyone to make sure they're pretty brief in their question, and to also tell us specifically who you're addressing the question to. You may not remember the name of the speaker, but just say, to the business school, to the medical school, whatnot. Thank you. Okay, so let's proceed with questions. I think there's a question there.
Hi, thank you for your presentation, for your all. It's very, very valuable information. I didn't know anything about it before, or there is an Illumina for Harvard before I joined your group on the Facebook. I want to ask about something. My specification is biochemistry and genetic engineering. I work in the natural science. I worked at the National Research Center here in Egypt. I traveled last year to take my master from Europe, in Greece. I take a master with 16 EST. Now I'm searching for a scholarship to continue my master, to evaluate it here in Cairo, because Master of Science didn't be approved here in Cairo less than 120 units for credit hours. And I traveled just last year on my main expenses. I didn't have any scholarship, so I'm now searching for one of these scholarships to continue my master. I didn't need to take another theoretical courses. I just need to do my practical work. If that is available in Harvard or a scholarship Ms. Sama talk about for the Egyptian student or not?
Okay, let me just summarize the question. So you're asking if there's a, you want to pursue a master's, and you're asking if there's a specific scholarship at Harvard, correct? To continue, okay.
We can ask for this. Currently, I don't know about engineering, but as I told you, there is the Al-Alfi Foundation that that pays for students in science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. So I think you should contact them, or maybe you should contact me, or after the session, and we can help.
I can hear. It's not engineering.
It is not engineering. My specification is biochemistry and genetic engineering.
Again, it's science, right?
But yeah, it's a science. It's
yeah,
not
so it's Al-Alfi Foundation as well.
Right.
So it's science.
If I may just, sorry to interrupt. Let's keep the questions general in nature for everybody's time. One-on-one questions we can have on specific cases بعدين. يعني نخلي الأسئلة عامة إذا في سؤال خاص في موضوع خاص أو حالة خاصة نتكلم فيها one-on-one بعدين بس عشان نعمل فائدة على الجميع.
It's okay. Thank you.
Hello, I have a question regarding contacting professors before the admission. Do you recommend us to contact professors before admission for example, PhD or whatever? And I'm also targeting the School of Design. I have fetched the website of Harvard University and discovered that they have a kind of visiting scholar kind of research. Do you have any background about that, or do you recommend that for us if I'm a PhD candidate already here in Egypt? Is it possible, and if it's easy or much easier to get into that, what kind of benefits can I get from this kind of research or so? Okay, thank you.
This is actually a very good question. For PhD programs, a PhD program, you can think of it as a one-on-one relationship. So it would be actually a good idea to establish some sort of contact with somebody who's working in a field you're interested in establishing research in. I think that would enhance your application. That is not the case for the master's program. Okay, so the master's program is more general application, but for the PhD, I think it is a wise thing to do to establish such a contact. Having said that, do not be disappointed if the professor does not respond back to you, because they receive so many emails from such candidates all over the world. So it's good if you have it. Don't let not having it stop you from pursuing the application. That's vis-a-vis the contacting the professor. Vis-a-vis the visiting scholar, that's actually a great opportunity that exists at Harvard, which is many different schools at Harvard will host you as a PhD candidate here in Egypt or anywhere else in the world to do research. The value of that fellowship, aside from the fact that that fellowship gives you access to Harvard with its immense resources, okay? In addition to that, different scholarships or fellowships have different financial stipend. Some of it will cover your housing, some of it will cover your living expenses, what have you. They differ from one to the other, but that's also a very good way to get access to the wealth of resources that Harvard has without having necessarily having been admitted. I don't know if, please, Nelly.
I just wanted to add one point about contacting professors. Like Dr. Elias has just said, it's probably necessary to do that if you're applying to a PhD program. But still, even if you're applying to a master's program, I would encourage you to, yes, contact the program. I would actually, my advice would be each program has a program coordinator,
running the program, and so usually these people would be more responsive than a professor if you're applying at the master's level, and they would direct you. They would tell you which professor would likely respond to that specific question, or they would give you some guidance. For example, before I applied to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, I contacted 2 program coordinators because I was not sure, I was unable to decide which program I was more interested in, and they both hooked me up with different professors, and I did have several conversations with professors prior to applying. So each professor, it's really up to them whether they will be responsive or not, but I would advise you to contact the coordinators because they will give you some guidance there too.
And actually, on the same topic which Nelly was just saying, a lot of the professors, their biographies are all online on the school website. And so I really, really encourage you to go online. I personally went and read all the biographies of the professors, and I was really surprised at the number of professors that were there who had done work in the Middle East, and some of them had done work in Egypt. And so I specifically wrote in my application letter that I was looking forward to meeting and working with X, Y, and Z professor because they had been working in a similar field to what I was interested in. And a lot of these professors are actually on the admissions board, especially if they're the dean of the graduate school or college. So I would definitely suggest that, yeah, not every professor is going to write back to you, but there's other ways you can show them that you've done your research, that you know what you're talking about, and also sort of get your attention. For a lot of the schools, it's not just what you're going to get out of Harvard, but it's also what you can contribute to Harvard. And if you can talk about how your research aligns with what some of the professors are doing, they will see you as an asset because they can learn from you the same way that you're going to be learning from them.
Okay, I have a question for Harvard Business School. Yes, here at the back. Actually, there are 2 questions. The first one is, if I'm planning to apply for MBA in 2016, where are the deadlines and when does it actually start? I mean, like the course, the year. The second one is, what sort of criteria are they looking for? Because I read that there was once a Yale student, he had GPA 3.9, and he was not accepted in Harvard Business School, so how can I compete with a Yale graduate whose GPA is 3.9? I mean, are there like different criteria or what? Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, so to answer your first question, the deadlines are generally a year prior. So as I said, so basically it would be, September 2014 for coming in September 2015. So just a year prior. And again, please do try to, apply first round, ideally. Second round, if you can't make the first round, that would be sort of my guiding thought on that. And all the dates are on the website. And, just think back for the steps you need to do. So if your application needs to be in September 1st, and you need to, before that, have taken the GMAT, give yourself time. You may not do terrific, the first time. I took it twice, right? So just give yourself time. Give yourself time to write your applications. Give yourself time to get meaningful letters of recommendations. So, start working on it early. On your second question, I think, as Dr. Essa said before, it's not about, there is clearly the GPAs. There are many people that will be 3.9, 4.0, et cetera, and will not come in because it's not about just how you do academically. You have to hit a minimum bar academically, and I don't know what that is in terms of numbers, right? Because they don't say the hard number is X, right? But you probably have to have done very well academically. But then what they're looking for is a story. So I heard, the Harvard admissions director say it, and I think it sums it up well. They'll first sort of see, are you good enough academically, right? Whatever that is. It doesn't have to be 3.9, right? Did you do well on the GMAT? There is no cutoff score. People say, I have to get 700 to get in. You do not have to get 700 to get in, right? So they'll say, are you doing well academically? And then it will be, okay, now I need to think I want 900 people. I want 900 people with very different stories, and they come from different places. So it will be a matter of really selection, right? What about you that makes you special? What do you bring into your application, right? So you can have a story as someone from Egypt that has had, a lot of great work on, pick your topic, right? I don't know, yeah, I was a consultant, there's so many of us, but I talked a lot about my work in, education and healthcare in Egypt, right? Maybe that for them was interesting because you bring in a perspective that's helpful to other student that maybe is unique. So I would just think about, your story, what makes you unique, and what can you tell them to really say, take me, I am different, I'm special, not only am I just, smart on paper. And again, very happy to sort of connect after this one-on-one too, would be happy to help.
I just would like to add a small point here, that everybody, every single person in this room has a story. But the problem is that we don't know how to formulate our stories and tell them that we are special. Every single person is special. It just takes a lot of work to discover how special we are and in what aspect. So this needs a little bit of work, and maybe you can ask people to help you write your personal statement or write your story and discover your passion in life, because passion is what stands out in your personal statement.
Thank you. It's, the lights are a little bit bright, so we can't actually see everyone. So if people are asking questions, please stand up so that we make sure we're actually seeing you. Okay, so I see you standing up.
My name is Atif. I graduated from Faculty of Fine Arts, and I'm an architecture department. I want to ask two questions. I have a family, and I'm thinking to have a master program in Harvard. And I want to ask about, do I have to leave them behind or leave them in Egypt until I finish, or I can bring them with me, and if there's any financial aid program for that? And second one is, like I said before, I'm graduated from Fine Arts. I'm not very fan of mathematics. But I have an excellent academic record and also leadership record. So do we have to have a specific score like GRE or something like that? Is it, if I'm not a very fan of mathematics, is it an obstacle for me to apply for any master program like architecture or something? Thank you.
There's a lot of vibration. I heard your second question about GRE. The part that I missed is, I did not hear what discipline. I know you probably mentioned it. Like, who was your question for? And also, what was your first question? What is your school? Who is your question addressed to?
The first one about, I have a family, wife and daughter. If I'm applying a master degree in Harvard, and do I have to leave them in Egypt or leave them behind, or I can bring them with me? And if there's any financial aid program, take care of that. This is what was my first question.
Okay. So maybe I can answer that question. I definitely know a lot of Egyptian students who are there with their families, so I know this is not a problem at all. Once, they'll issue the visa for you, they'll issue a visa for your family members too. So that's, definitely not a problem. Your second question was about a cutoff in the GRE. As far as I heard from, most of the presentations, they're not, schools don't have cutoff specific numbers for the GRE, but definitely the higher you score, the more competitive you will be. But just remember, I think this has been reiterated a lot of times by different speakers. They're evaluating you as a person, not just as a score or as a number. So, just keep that in mind.
I have a question here. So my question to the School of Public Health, I'm also a medical doctor and I'm very interested in it. First, thank you for the very informative session, and I would like to have a good news. So, as a deadline has been extended till December 23rd, so we have more 3 days, and also the deadline for submission, the GRE test has been extended to January 10th. It's relatively good news, because the people are ready. So my question is about the English test. Can be waived? In Oxford, they are waiving this requirement in English if you have studied medicine in English or you have a master's degree in English. So can it be waived in a School of Public Health in Harvard? And second, question about credit transfer. I'm here and I have a lot of credits, and also I was in Tulane University and I have credits from School of Public Health there. Can be transferred, or Harvard is hard to transfer credit to? So that's it. Thank you.
So your second question, if credits could be transferred, definitely not. Harvard has a policy; they don't transfer credits from any other school, not international, but not even, as far as I know, national. So even transferring from other schools in Harvard, they do not. Not other schools in Harvard, I mean other universities in the US, they do not move your credits. Your first question was, the English test. They say that if your education, so if you did medical school or your education was primarily in English, they could waive it. So I did not have to take the TOEFL exam. But I've also seen other people take it. I don't know if, maybe it would help you be more competitive if you do really well. I'm not sure. But as far as I know, they do not, if your education, your graduate degree was in English, they may waive that. Probably that's also a question you might want to check with the actual admissions officer. So you can just email them and say, I studied X and Y in English, and is that enough to waive that requirement? I did not have to take it because my medical school was in English.
يعني الجامعات الحكومية I don't think they transfer the credits.
I'm glad I asked you.
But there are some faculties, they have it's me, I'm Sama. Some faculties, you have at the Faculty of Commerce, for example, you have an English section. At the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University, you have an English section as well. At the Faculty of Law. So you just contact Harvard and just ask them, I graduated from this, although it's a national university, but it's an English program. So sometimes it can be waived as well.
Before we take the next question, just to the control room, ممكن بس ترفعوا النور في باقي القاعة لو سمحت، بس الكنترول نرفع النور في باقي القاعة لو سمحت. طيب, next question عبين ما.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Ahmed, and my question is directed to the guys from Harvard College. So I'm a high school student. I'm undertaking IGCSEs, and my question is, what are the set of requirements that I need to do for admission if I'm undertaking IGCSEs? And another question is, what made you guys so special that they had to admit you? I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I mean it, what are your special sets of skills? What did you write in your application letters and such?
هو متواضع جدا بس علي هنا is probably بطل العالم في سكواش ف that helps.
Well, I think I can answer both questions because I used to study IGCSE as well in modern education school. And they don't have specific requirements, but especially because you don't have to say what you're going to be concentrating in before you go to Harvard. You just go there and decide your sophomore year. So they ask for 8 O-level classes and 2 A-levels, whatever you want to do. And you have to sit for the SAT. That's one thing. And the TOEFL. But if you score more than 600 in both sections in the SAT, you don't have to sit for the TOEFL. And for the SAT, again, there is no cutoffs. It's just, it's a whole package. They look at your academics, they look at your essay, they look at your interview, if you're invited for an interview, they look at everything. So there's no cutoff. Of course, the better you do, the more chance you have, the better chance you have. So what made me special, for example, is the squash, as Dr. Isis told you. And I was recruited. If there is any athlete in the room, definitely you should contact the coach that is coaching this sport at Harvard, and they would definitely give you a very big push in your admissions. For Essam, he's متواضع as well, but he's brilliant in economics, CS, and applied math. So he's doing the 3 together.
So for the first question, you can do the SAT or the ACT. So if you find that the SAT is harder for you for some reason, you can take the ACT. I also did GCSEs, not IGCSEs, because I was in a British school. And then I did IB, so you can take multiple paths. You don't have to necessarily do A-levels or like O-levels or whatever. Yeah, and for the second question, I'm not an athlete, so I didn't have that for me. But I think just find other stuff outside the classroom which you excel at. So for example, MUN, if you enjoy MUN, but it's not enough to be a delegate, right? So you want to be the first Arab to chair the General Assembly at The Hague, for example. You see what I mean? Like you want to distinguish yourself. The Hague is like a conference in Holland, Netherlands. Or you want to make sure that you take, for example, the hardest IB classes you can take, for example. You want, as they say, like good grades won't get you in, but bad grades will definitely keep you out, if that makes sense. So that's basically it.
Thanks, Essam and Ali. MUN is the model of the United Nations.
Yeah.
So we only have time for 2 more questions, but we will stay longer. If other people have questions, they're welcome to just come up front.
Okay. Sorry. Can I continue? Or?
In the back? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead in the back.
Okay.
Here.
Oh,
yeah.
here.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask about recommendation letters. I want a general question. Recommendation letters, when you usually ask professors about them, they say, you know what, you go write them and just bring them and we'll sign. And I don't think this is a good strategy for Harvard specifically. So in my college, we only have one professor who can write actually a recommendation letter. I'm not sure about the case in other Egyptian universities, but that's my case. The second question is about the joint program between the business school and the Kennedy School. I wanted to ask about the criteria. Do I have to do the 3 years of working experience to apply for such a program, or can I just apply and they will use the criteria for the Kennedy school? Thank you.
Okay, so just a quick thought on your first question, and then I'll let my colleagues here add. I think it's really important for the letters of recommendations to come from people that are willing to take the time to write your letter of recommendation. So, ask someone, would you be willing to do this? I think what helped is, helping people with saying what it is that you want to bring into your application. Why do you want to go with this school? So sort of have a conversation with them that helps them write your letter. I had conversations with people that maybe worked with me a while back and just reminded them of situations that, may be helpful for them to bring up. They also don't just have to be professors. So for the business school, it can be a coworker, it can be a colleague. A great sort of anecdote that I heard when I was at business school is that a lot of people who were in Chicago had Obama once as their professor and went, when he's senator, to ask him to write letters of recommendation. And he did, but he didn't know them. And this was very clear. And they didn't care that it was coming from Obama, right? Now president of the US. So it's really much more important that this person can speak to who you are and can be very detailed, rather than that they're the president of the American University in Cairo, right? So that's your first point. To the second question, you independently have to get into both schools. So the criteria for work experience would still hold for the business school. So for any joint degree, at least for the HBS one, you have to get into HBS, then you have to get into HKS, and then you can pursue the 3-year program.
Okay, and one more tip. I'm sorry, Hesham, just a second. One more tip on the recommendation letters. They ask for 3 recommendation letters, so you need to show the different facets of your personality. So for example, if you volunteer in NGOs and so forth, so bring someone from the NGO sector. And of course, you need at least 1 or 2 academics to write for you, but you definitely need to show that your personality is diverse and you have a lot of experience. So in my case, at the Kennedy School, it was 1 professor and then the head of an NGO where I volunteered for a long time, and the 3rd one was in a research center that was outside my my job. Yeah, so just change, have some people.
Okay.
Okay, just the last question, and then people can come up and ask their questions individually. The gentleman there.
Okay. Okay. First of all, my name is Sharif Al-Tahan, a Harvard student, inshallah. I'm sure of that, inshallah, yani. Just 2 quick points. First of all, I'm very proud of you, and you really, I felt your passion and I felt what you are doing, so thank you so much. The second thing that my question is for the education school. I would love to increase the male students in Harvard, so that's why I'm trying to join you. I had an overview of the fields, the different fields, 13.1. Most of them, they are related to the child or the children education. And I'm interested in the adult learning and development. So is there a chance there to have something to focus on that area, especially I'm trainer, soft skills trainer, and I would like to evolve it and to apply it in Egypt. So thank you so much.
Okay, so just to reiterate what you asked, you were wondering if there were programs at the education school that were geared more towards adults.
And the answer is absolutely that is true. There are actual multiple programs. So there is one sector which is called higher education, which focuses more on youth and young adults that are going into university. And it's focused all about, you know, the A to Z of everything you need to know about university and college admissions, for example. And then there's programs like special studies, which I think Nelly touched on earlier, which is you essentially make your own program based on your interests. There's also the program that me and Nelly were in, which was the International Education Policy Program, which focuses more on education from a macro level and working with governments and other international institutions on education development. And that's always focused on everything from K through 12 and beyond. So they will also discuss adult literacy and adult learning. There's also education neuroscience, which is fascinating. And if you're interested also in adult learning, they focus on that as well.
Yeah, no, basically, you know, everything that Jenan said, and each track has classes that cater to both childhood and early education and other classes that cater to adult education. So if you're going to be in the language and literacy, you could choose to focus on adult language and literacy and not childhood. The same for teaching. It's really, there's a variety of courses and you can pick and choose to tailor it so that it fits exactly what you're looking for. You're welcome.
Thank you. So unfortunately, we're out of time. You know, people will be staying a little bit if you have questions for some of the speakers. I'd like to thank you all for being here. It's been, you know, a pleasure having you all. And you know, we can't end without thanking our partners, the AUC, Dr. Al-Ississ, and all his team, thanking all the volunteers, all the speakers. We're all here because we want to see more of you next year in Boston. So hopefully our next meeting will be in Boston. Thank you.
Hamid, thank you for all the time you've invested. Third, I want to thank Hesham. Hesham is probably Egypt's best ambassador to Harvard and Harvard's best ambassador to Egypt, and the rest of the team for taking time of their family with the only purpose is they really want to increase the Arab presence at Harvard. Please come for one-on-one questions now.